I'm doing this video today in kind of response to a video that was posted by Lifting Vault. In his video, he talked about how he has been mocked for believing that SSJ Bobb could become one of the greatest powerlifters ever, if not the best. I'm going to be honest, I'm surprised that people even mocked him for this, because I thought most people within powerlifting, especially those who compete, knew that Bobb would eventually become one of the best of all time, and it shouldn't even be a question. Now, if you don't know who Bobb is, I have done a few videos on him in the past, so I'm not going to go too much into depth just to avoid being repetitive. But I do have a few other videos on Bobb where I do go into depth about him and his performance, what he's doing within powerlifting. So definitely go check those videos out. As far as powerlifting, he has been powerlifting for about 3 years. And when I say he's been powerlifting for about 3 years, of course he was lifting before that, but he just started competing 3 years ago. Regardless, to come into a sport and make it to the top, especially within a sport like powerlifting, while the sport is small, it's small as far as getting attention. It's not small as far as how many people participate within the sport. The USAPL actually just dropped a post that said they now have 25,000 members. And that's just the USAPL, which is a fraction of the whole sport of powerlifting. Powerlifting's worldwide. USAPL is just one fraction of powerlifting. So what Bobb has done over the last few years, he should be considered one of the best. Now, for Bobb to be the best, or anyone to be the best, for example, if you're having a debate like this, if you're going to say LeBron James is the greatest of all time, the next thing you do is, well, let's look at Michael Jordan's stats. Let's look at, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's stats. Let's look at Kobe Bryant's stats. So that's the same thing we have to do here. If we're going to say Bobb is the best, let's compare him to some of the other best within the 100 kg weight class. Now, right now, Bobb ranks 10th all time within the 100 kg weight class. While he has been competing for 3 years, he made it top 10 all time by just competing at 100 kg in one meet. Hey guys, I'm putting this in the video because I did realize that I had made a mistake. I did my research incorrectly. Bobb did not make the top 10 just off of one meet. He did it off two. Still ridiculous, still impressive, but I just wanted to correct myself and make sure that I wasn't saying anything incorrect or saying anything false. So if I say one, just know that I really mean two. I just made a mistake at the time. It took him one meet to become 10th all time in the 100 kg weight class. Before that, before he went 100 kg, he was in 93 kg, of course, before the USAPL had changed its weight class rules. And even though technically Bobb would have been 100 kg if the rules changed earlier, Bobb was a light 205. He was 197, I think, at his first meet. He was like 201, so he easily could have cut back down to 198, maybe been in 90. Regardless, at the end of the day, the fact is it took him one meet at 100 kg to become 10th all time. Others who are, top 10 all time, these include guys like Chad Penson, John Hack, and Dan Green, of course. And obviously, Bobb is not hitting the numbers that guys like John, Chad, or Dan Green are hitting right now or have hit in the past. But he's coming very close, and he's still active, so his numbers are only going to get higher. Dan Green, Chad Penson, some of the other people on this list, they either don't compete anymore, haven't competed in a while, or they just haven't been able to add more onto their total. And some of these guys, their performance have just gotten worse over time, meaning they're not as strong as they once were. But that's not the case for Bobb at all. His numbers get significantly higher as he's competing. And it makes sense. If you follow him on Instagram, he's totaling ridiculous amount of weights. I'm talking about like national numbers he's hitting in practice. Like, I can't even explain. You're just going to have to see it. I'm not going to go into depth about it. You have to go to his Instagram, check out the video, see what he's doing in practice. And if he's hitting these numbers within practice, what do you think he's going to do on the platform? Now, the potential problem, though, that I will admit with this is if Bobb decides to go to, I think it's 110 kg, which is likely because he's over 220 right now, to even break the top 10, he would either have to total 2,100 pounds at a certain body weight, which he hasn't done yet, or he would have to get a DOTS of 570. The DOTS of 570 is, I think, more important because it's dependent on weight. He could total 2,100 at 242 pounds and he wouldn't break the top 10. So even if he didn't go to the 110 kg weight class, he could hit 2,100 now as a total if he wanted to. And if he decides to do that, you can't deny him anymore, and here's why. While his numbers may not match up to all the other people on the top 10 all time, none of them match what he's been able to do within the last 3 years. And if you can, in the top 10 all-time class, find me someone who went from a total like 1,600 to 2,000 something pounds in 3 years. Honestly, it might be a little bit less than 3 years based on, because I got to look at the months, but it might be a little bit under 3 years that Bob has done this in. So again, if you can find me someone in the top 10 who has matched the progress of Bob without any previous powerlifting experience, meaning they weren't going to meets prior, leave their name in the comment section. The other thing too we have to consider with Bob though is he is still young. He still has a lot more to learn. We have to consider this as well because Bob may not have the experience of guys like John Hack, Chad Pencer, or Dan Green, and he might actually be the youngest in the top 10 on that 100 kg top 10 all-time list. He's only 24 years old, and while he will get physically stronger, anyone who's ever participated in sport knows that sometimes someone else's experience can beat what somebody else's body can naturally do. So, for example, look at Glover Teixeira. He's knocking out people, and he's over 40 years old. Now, that has to do with experience, of course. Now, while the sport of MMA is much different, there's more longevity in powerlifting, which I think actually drives my point even more home, because if there's more longevity in the sport, you have a better chance of becoming even more experienced. Here's what I mean. You can look at someone like Ed Cohn, who's actually considered one of the best powerlifters of all time, even though he never even competed raw, but regardless, he's considered one of the greatest powerlifters of all time, and he competed from 17 to 51 years old. All right, so Bob already has some natural gifts. I'm not saying that to take away from all the hard work he's been putting in, because I'm telling you, take a look at his Instagram, you could see that he has a killer mentality. So he has some natural gifts, he has a killer mentality. He's increased his total by almost 400 pounds in a little less than 3 years. I'm pretty sure this is a little less than 3 years, and is only 24 years old, and is only going to gain more experience within this sport. How is he not on the path to being one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest? I forgot to mention this too. He competes in a drug-tested federation. Let's hope he does not. Let's hope that Bob never goes on a PED or a steroid, because he will break the sport of powerlifting. Now, guys, that is the end of the video. That's just my opinion on SSJ Bobb. I honestly think he'll be one of the greatest of all time. I think at some point he's going to be the best to ever do it in the 100 kg weight class. But you guys let me know what you think in the comment section. I definitely want to hear some of your opinions. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? As always, guys, thank you for watching. Make sure that you do like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys later.